Welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News Alert, and we are covering three major breaking stories tonight. We have breaking news that we'll share throughout the hour. Democrats, the media, are proving they will attack this president over anything. They are now racing to politicize the death of an American serviceman that was killed in action. And also tonight, the massive real Russia collusion story. It is expanding minute by minute. The Hill's John Solomon out with an explosive report today. The lawyer for the FBI informant who says Russian officials funneled money to the Clinton Foundation, while is saying her client was silenced by the Obama Justice Department. They knew all along. The lawyer, along with John Solomon, Sarah Carter, will all join us tonight. Also, finally tonight, the Senate Judiciary Committee, they are opening an investigation into the kickbacks, the racketeering, the bribery, the money laundering, the extortion that we told you about last night, all to secure the Uranium One deal. We'll cover all the details in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. Now tonight for the hour, we're going to give you news and information no one else in this media, the liberal media, dares to cover, and it involves your national security. The evidence is now becoming more clear every single day. Now, we're going to get to all of this in just a minute, but first, in one of the most despicable, disgusting displays of politicizing a tragedy that we have ever seen is now happening. Now, we recently have watched as Democrats, they politicize every tragedy, whether it's the Vegas shooting or the hurricane damage in Florida, Texas, Puerto Rico. Democrats, their allies in the left-wing liberal mainstream media, they have now sunk to a disturbing new low, proving that in their eyes, our president, President Trump, can do nothing right. Now, the left in this country is now using the death of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, who was killed earlier this month in Niger, to attack the president. And to do so, the media is using like the #1 Trump hater in the country, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, after President Trump called Sergeant Johnson's widow yesterday to do the right thing, offer his condolences. Well, Congresswoman Wilson, who claims to have heard the conversation, said that President Trump told the widow that her husband, quote, knew what he signed up for. And apparently there was more to the sentence. The president reportedly also said he knew what he signed up for, but when it happens, it really hurts. It still hurts. The media is leaving that part out in most instances. Now, Congresswoman Wilson also went to CNN, of course, fake news, to continue to trash the president. They give everybody who wants to trash the president a forum over there for calling the widow and the president offering his condolences. Watch this.
I didn't hear the whole phone call, but I did hear him say, I'm sure he knew what he was signing up for, but it still hurts. I was livid when I heard that. To say that this young man stayed in school, did all the right things, went into the service, became a sergeant so quickly that he signed up for his own death? That is so insensitive.
It is so taken out of context. Now, President Trump is firing back against the Congresswoman's claims. Watch this.
Didn't say what that Congresswoman said. Didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said, and I'd like her to make the statement again, because I did not say what she said.
Now, Congresswoman Wilson's attacks against the president are not a surprise. She has been vicious from day one against President Trump, going after him for months. We'll have more on that in a minute, which the media won't tell you. But first, let's assume for a second, let's assume that maybe the president was slightly inarticulate in his offer of condolences to the sergeant's widow. Let's assume for just a second. Isn't what the president's saying here that anybody who signs up for the military, they know the danger, they're courageous, they're heroes. Every brave American who signs up to defend their country does so knowing those dangers, knowing they may end up making the ultimate sacrifice. Isn't that why we honor military members? Because they put their lives on the line for us every single day in America, and they don't ask for a whole lot in return? Isn't that part of the equation? Sergeant Johnson, to his family, our thoughts and prayers are with you. He is a hero. Everybody in this country should honor him for his service. And by the way, you have to be a really sick, twisted, ugly person that puts politics first, which most of the media is today, to think that the president got up out of bed, purposely got on the phone, and wanted to hurt this family after what happened to them. That's what you would have to believe this story. Look, I don't really think the president got on the phone to hurt the slain soldiers' family. He was being thoughtful. He was trying to comfort them. And by the way, the White House has witnesses. They say the context of the phone call is what's important. By the way, and the congresswoman, what she said, well, it's only part of what the president said. Now, there's also a big question that we all need answered in all of this. Is Congresswoman Wilson trying to exploit a tragedy here? And by the way, use a tragedy as an opportunity to attack the president, because it appears she is. She's hated the president from day one. No one else is telling you that in the media. This is not the first time the congresswoman has attacked the president personally. Back in May, she was already predicting President Trump's impeachment, saying, quote, he doesn't realize that he is on the brink of impeachment and people will begin to call for him to be impeached, and the Republicans will have to join in because they need to be on the right side of history. And in August, Wilson proved she was no fan of President Trump. She tweeted, quote, well, if you support racists, you're a racist. At real Donald Trump supports racists because he's a racist. That's what she says about our president. In June, she tweeted, if real Donald Trump was a student at a school I served as a principal and behaved so crudely, he'd be expelled. Back in March, she was pushing the Russia collusion conspiracy theories. And finally, in June, in reaction to James Comey's testimony, she put out a statement saying, quote, what Comey described is impeachment of Justice 101. If all I heard is true and corroborated by his former colleagues in the investigation, I believe there's no question President Trump will be impeached. This is the woman that is leading this cause against the president, who called a widow in one of the worst moments in her life, the sad loss of her child. And of course, following right behind the congresswoman, we have all the sheep in the lapdog media piling on the president, assuming the worst in President Trump, assuming that the Trump-hating congresswoman is correct. They run, of course, only one side of the story. Watch this, as usual.
Just put this into a long list of strange, bizarre interactions that the president has on a daily basis. I mean, we could find 10 or 11 or 12 yesterday of public record.
We're talking about how he's incompetent, but how about insensitive?
I don't think he has any compassion in him. You know?
He really don't. He has no empathy.
President Trump is now embroiled in a new controversy about what he said to the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, one of 4 soldiers killed in that ambush in Niger.
Every one of them are phony hypocrites. You know why? Where was the media outrage when it was revealed that then President Obama, he didn't even call one of his own generals, now President Trump's chief of staff, General Kelly, when his own son was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. Did you hear anything from any of those people in the media back then? I tend to doubt it. And there's also a 2010 report from a local Washington paper that says when a Gold Star parent called the White House to talk to President Obama, he was told Obama didn't typically make those kinds of calls. No wonder, according to a new Politico poll, 46% of the American people think you in the media make up stories about the president. You know why they think it? Because it's true. You do. And of course, it's selective moral outrage once again. Now, in a few minutes tonight, you're going to meet a Gold Star mom, Karen Vaughn. She begged President Obama to not bring cameras when her son was being brought home in a coffin. And President Obama did it anyway. So I'm sick of everyone in the media, all their feigned outrage, all these lawmakers that hate President Trump and making their living off hating President Trump, like Congresswoman Wilson. I have a challenge for all of you overpaid, spoiled brats in the media. Okay, you care about the family? We should focus on the family. And guess what? I heard that this wife is pregnant. I'm going to personally donate. I've already done it. $14,000. You can donate $14,000 tax-free. So fake Jake Tapper, are you going to donate $14,000 and match it? Anderson Cooper, what about you? You make enough money. What about all you liberals over at Conspiracy TV? What about Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell? You going to pony up? How about Humpty Dumpty Stelter? So I'm so sick and tired of all of you people exploiting tragedies, believing the worst, and doing nothing to help these people. Put up the money. Also tonight, our second breaking news story. The Hill's John Solomon has uncovered another massive Democratic scandal that is raising serious legal questions about the Obama administration and the Clintons. Now, here's a quick overview of what we now know as this is developing every hour. According to John Solomon and Circa News' Sarah Carter, in 2009, the FBI uncovered evidence showing that the Russia, remember? Russia, Vladimir Putin, that their nuclear industry officials were engaging in bribery and kickbacks and money laundering and other criminal activities. We knew about it in an effort to move and advance Vladimir Putin's influence on America's uranium market. Then inexplicably, knowing all of this, in 2010, while the bribery scheme was still going on, the Obama administration, they went on and approved the Uranium One deal. That gave Vladimir Putin, Russia, 20% of control of America's uranium, the foundational material to make nuclear weapons. There's also another major aspect to this story. The Hill and Circa are reporting that the FBI has evidence, including an eyewitness account, that Russian nuclear officials, quote, routed millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation while Hillary was serving as Secretary of State and while she signed off on the Uranium One deal that gave 20% of our uranium to Vladimir. Now, tonight, the lawyer for the FBI informant, Victoria Tunsing, she says the Obama administration blocked her client from informing Congress and the American people about what he saw happening. Victoria will join us in a few minutes with an exclusive interview. But first, here's what we don't know and why you should be outraged. This is what the media won't tell you. According to both reports, the Obama administration, they kept evidence of this Russian bribery plot secret from Congress. And by the way, it's unclear if members of the government committee, the people that approved the Uranium One deal for Vladimir, knew what Russia was doing when they actually signed off on the agreement. There's evidence that shows that may in fact be true. And the Senate Judiciary Committee has now announced that they are launching an investigation into what key Obama administration officials knew and what they knew when, and for good reason. There are several high-profile officials that were involved in all of this. Here they are. Former Attorney General Eric Holder. He was a member of the committee that approved Uranium One. He had to know all of this, and he also headed the Department of Justice. They oversee the FBI. Now, to me, there's no way he didn't know about this Russian nuclear plot, and he needs to testify under oath what he knew, when he knew it. Did he withhold vital national security information? Then there's a now Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and he's now Deputy FBI Director, Andrew McCabe. Two other people, watch their names. They were the only ones who oversaw the FBI's investigation into this Russian bribery, so there's no way that they weren't aware of what was happening. So tonight, the burning question is, why were they silent? Why didn't they sound the alarm about Russia while uranium was being approved, this deal to give to Putin? And by the way, next on the list, special counsel Robert Mueller. He was the FBI director back in 2009 when all this probe was going on, the bribery probe. You know, given what we now know, Mueller should not be in charge of any investigation as it relates to Russia or Russian collusion or election interference because he has yet another massive conflict of interest. But since it appears that Mueller will be sticking around, maybe he should focus on the actual evidence of real Russian collusion. Everything is here. All the evidence, all that Mueller and his team needs to do is corroborate the facts. Now today, answers. We reached out to Eric Holder, to Robert Mueller, Andrew McCabe, Rod Rosenstein, Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation. We asked all of them to comment about these explosive reports. The Department of Justice did respond about McCabe and Rosenstein. They stated, quote, per long-standing department policy, we don't comment on the existence or course of investigations. The Clinton Foundation, they did get back to us. They're denying the story. And big surprise, we didn't hear back from any others that we reached out to. Shocker. Now, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is also being asked about investigating this scandal. He was on Capitol Hill earlier today. He was pressed by Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa about the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. Watch this.
I would like to remind you that Deputy Attorney Rosenstein directly supervised the criminal case when he was U.S. Attorney in Maryland. I don't think it would be proper for him to supervise a review of his own conduct, do you?
It would be his decision. He's a man of integrity and ability. If he feels that he has a inability to proceed with any investigation, it would be his responsibility to make that determination, and should consult, as I told you I would, and as I have done, with the senior ethics people at the department.
I'm sorry, this is shocking that the Attorney General is refusing to flat out say Rod Rosenstein needs to recuse himself if the DOJ opens an investigation into this Russia bribery scandal. Sessions was also asked about having the FBI having evidence that Russians kicked back money to the Clinton Foundation. He refused to comment on that publicly. Now, we've been saying this for months. If the Attorney General believes in equal justice under the law, he needs to investigate the Clintons, because there's overwhelming, incontrovertible criminal evidence against them. They should not get a free pass just because they have money, name, power, and influence. That's not how our system of justice is supposed to work. Joining us now, Gold Star mom, Karen Vaughn. I have known you for many, many years. You are the mother of Aaron Vaughn. He was one of 30 servicemen. He died. He was part of Extortion 17. You've met President Trump. You also, when your son's body was being brought back, you have a story to tell. Was President Trump empathetic to you? Did he show empathy for you?
He was extremely empathetic, Sean. I've not only met him once, I've met him twice. We sat with him. His Gold Star families met with him before the election, and then he also invited our family to the White House for a Gold Star families dinner and ceremony, a ceremony that he plans to continue, I understand, till he brings in a tremendous number of Gold Star families across this country. He is extraordinarily empathetic to the Gold Star family.
What you at the time and the families, this was at the time, happened in Afghanistan in August of 2011, and it was the largest loss of military life in a single day. You and the families then asked President Obama. You said he was welcome to come when the bodies were being received, but you did have a request. The families had a request. What was it?
The request was no press, no pictures, that this was a solemn, very private engagement, and that was agreed upon. And then, unfortunately, what happened is the next morning we found out that he did have a photographer there with him that night, and we didn't think too much about it. But the next morning, the picture of him saluting our son's caskets was plastered all over the media. The White House staff had released that photograph and had dishonored our very simple request to just let this moment be private. Our sons died 7,000 miles away from us, and we just wanted to welcome their bodies home.
So President Obama didn't honor your request, which is a little unbelievable to me. He also didn't call some families, which we discovered too. And then we learned in the case, even his own general, when General Kelly lost his son. I don't want to drag you into the politics of this, but you did meet President Trump. And then you hear that General Kelly wasn't called. And then you see one of the biggest Trump haters attacking the president on this very issue that touches your family so deeply. My question to you is, do you sense this is being politicized, and your reaction to it?
It's definitely being politicized. This is nonsense to even be discussing this, Sean. I know you're frustrated by it. I sense it in your tone, and I appreciate that. This is utter nonsense. When a person calls a family member whose loved one has just died overseas, it is an act of honor. I did not agree with President Obama, his policies, or anything else, but I did respect the fact that he came to Dover to meet our families. So, you just have to respect the extension of grace and mercy and love and respect that's given, and to turn this into a political stomp for this congresswoman who seems to me to be desperate for attention is a gross undermining of the loss that's been suffered by this incredible family who I grieve with.
They just jump on board, and they don't put in context how much this congresswoman hates the president. Karen, I've gotten to know you, love you. You're in my thoughts and prayers always. Thank you for being with us.
Love you too, Sean. Thank you.
Joining us now, Circa News' Sarah Carter. From the Hill, John Solomon, attorney Victoria Tunsey. She's representing that FBI informant at the center of this latest Clinton Foundation scandal. I'll start with you, Victoria. This is your client. He wanted to tell Congress about all of the bribery, all of the scheming, all of the kickbacks, all of the corruption. He had the information. He wanted to tell a story. What happened?
Well, when he started working for the FBI in 2009, they had him sign what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. They never gave him a copy of it, and when he went public in 2016, way after all this case stuff was done, the Justice Department under Loretta Lynch called him and threatened him with his freedom if he violated the NDA. Now, I've never heard of an NDA that had a criminal penalty for violation, but they won't show him a copy of it. So we decided to go to the members of Congress and the Senate, and I have breaking news for you, Sean. While I was in makeup, I got a letter from Chairman Grassley asking my client to give them information. Now, what this does is set up a constitutional issue, because the executive branch cannot say to someone, don't you give information to the legislature. So it'll be a very interesting thing to see how the Justice Department responds.
So they have the power to lift that NDA. That would be amazing. So we've got, Sarah, bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering, and Vladimir Putin gets 20% of our uranium. All this money gets kicked back. I'm always a big believer, follow the money. Vladimir Putin was up to his eyeballs infiltrating. This is a real national security issue. Getting our uranium, it was his goal.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely, Sean.
It
was a counterintelligence investigation to begin with. That's what my sources are saying now. This started out as a counterintelligence investigation, and what happened was, the Russians, the United States had known that the Russians wanted to get by the disarmament process. They wanted to penetrate the American markets so then they could have Russian dependency, so people would be dependent on Russia. And that's what they were doing all along. And this is how they did it. They reached out to people that they knew would help them move legislation through, move the process through quickly. And apparently they found it, especially here in the United States. And, we don't want to jump the gun here. We know this is ongoing and the Senate is now investigating this. But there was a large number of kickbacks and bribes and schemes that we still haven't uncovered yet.
Yeah, John, you broke this forward. This is important about the informant, and if the Senator Grassley is going to allow this informant to talk in the Justice Department, who would have to sign off specifically? So Victoria is being a great attorney, and I've known her for many years, and I'd hire her myself in a second. Who would have to sign off on this? It would have to be the Justice Department, right?
It would be, though the FBI might have a say too, because they would be concerned about what information, methods, and sources might be divulged by him. So I think it's going to be a two-tiered review. The FBI first and the Justice Department second.
Where did the money come from? Because you talk about money laundering. Where did the money that got into the Clinton Foundation come from?
Well, we don't know that yet. I think we have to find that out. We do know that the money for the kickbacks came from the form of the contract. So the Russian company would pay a contractor in the United States, and the contractor then would kick that money back to enrich Vladimir Putin's buddies back in Russia. That is what's been established in the court case. Where the money came from for the Clinton Foundation, we don't know, except what's in the public records. We know a bank interested in the deal gave Bill Clinton $500,000 speech fee. We know other people interested in the deal donated millions of dollars over the years.
Is it possible possible, though? This is a real Russia collusion, influence, peddling, bribery, extortion, kickback scam now. Now the question is, who needs to get on this? Victoria, last word.
Well, I think Bob Mueller needs to get off of it.
Good point.
I can't imagine that he doesn't have a conflict.
Well, good. Well, very good point. All right. Any breaking news tomorrow, guys? Sarah, John?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. There's more to come down the pike, I'm sure.
All right. I know what stay tuned means in your world. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow then. We will get to the truth. The media is ignoring it. This is too important. This is going to be uncovered as one of the biggest scandals. Watch. When we come back, more reaction to Democrats, the media politicizing the death of a soldier to attack President Trump, and much more straight ahead. As we continue on Hannity, joining me now with more reaction to the left's latest attack on the president, America First Action spokesperson and senior advisor, former Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, and the author of Drone Warrior, maybe soon to be a movie, U.S. Army veteran Brett Belikovich is with us. Sheriff, you know, when you say about somebody that signs up, everybody that signs on to the military knows their life is at risk, and they do it anyway. And then the president goes on to say, and when something horrible happens, your worst fears, it hurts. Did he say anything wrong in that? Is this being politicized?
Sure, it's being politicized. Look, President Trump is very sensitive in these situations. We know he supports the military. He made it clear during the campaign, and law enforcement as well. Look, I knew that thing was taken out of context. We all know, for nearly 40 years, myself in law enforcement, we know what we sign up for. And what he was talking about is they knew that they were defending the country. They knew that they were needed. They understood the sacrifice that had to be made. That thing was taken entirely out of context. Shame on the left and anybody who would exploit that thing over the body of a serviceman coming back in a flag-draped coffin.
And you have one of the biggest Trump haters leading the pack. I watch this, and the media runs with it. It just disgusts me.
Sean, look, I think it's a sad day in our country when we sunk into a new low where we're actually using a service member who gave everything to our country, who sacrificed everything, and using that death as a political tool to divide us even further. I mean, this man is a hero. This soldier is absolutely a hero. And the fact is, this tit-for-tat politics that's going on right now, it's not needed, and we got to get it away from the military.
And Sheriff, listen, I'll be the first to admit, a lot of us in media are overpaid brats. So I put up 14 grand. You can donate tax-free to the family. And I'm asking all these spoiled brats that are politicizing it in the news media, put your money where your mouth is. Donate to this woman and this family and this child that will be joining this world soon. How about that?
Yeah, you're right, and they won't do it because it's more important to them to get out their political score sheet and see how they can rep the president, President Donald Trump, for something that he did not do. This has been constant. The American people are tired of it. I'm tired of it. And I think the tables are being turned, though, because the American people are watching this and they're disgusted by these political tactics. As our other guest said, the tit for tat that goes on a daily basis with this president, especially over, the death of a serviceman who went over to serve this country with distinction, with honor, with courage.
That's where, Brett.
I've been thinking about this family all day long, and as the Congresswoman, when she put this out information, in the national media, I think that's highly disrespectful. It's something that's dangerous to do. And right now, this family is probably getting calls from reporters, getting emails from reporters all across the country that are sitting there saying, what did the president say? Did he disrespect you? And really not talk about what's important. And you said it before, is how can we help them? How can we do something about this grieving family out there? And I think that's what's
now they get a double whack, because then the media is covering. They don't have to do this, but they did do it, and they deserve more respect. Respect them. Donate to the family.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. When we come back, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, high stakes news conference. He blew it today. Will the league put an end to players kneeling during the national anthem? We'll find out. Also tonight, I won't be in the studio tomorrow. There's a reason. We'll explain.
We believe that our great American flag should be treated with reverence and respect, and that young Americans should be taught to love our country, honor our anthem, and proudly recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, that was the president last night talking about respecting the flag. And sadly, the national anthem controversy in the NFL, it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Now, here's what the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, said at a news conference earlier today after meeting with the owners and the players. This is pretty sad. Watch this.
Everyone should stand for the national anthem. That's an important part of our policy. It's also an important part of our game that we all take great pride in. And it's also important for us to honor our flag and to our country, and we think our fans expect us to do that. The fact is that we have about a half a dozen players that are protesting. We hope, and we're going to continue to work to try to put that at zero. That's what we'd like to do. But we want to make sure that we're understanding what the players are talking about, and that's complex.
Meanwhile, it looks like professional athletes and their obsession with, quote, social justice in the workplace is now spreading to the NBA. On the opening night of the season, the Cleveland Cavaliers locked arms during the anthem, and LeBron James even wore sneakers with the words equality written on them. Joining us now is radio talk show host, he's nationally syndicated, Larry Elder, civil rights attorney Darryl Parks. I thought Roger Goodell wimped out today. This is the same NFL, Larry, as we've been discussing. You can't honor slain police in Dallas after the tragedy last year. You can't, on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, put the date on your cleats, never forget. So why is the NFL, why now or other sports, defying what the American people are saying loudly they don't want, politicizing a sports this way?
It's a good question. It's also a good question about why the players, irrespective of how they feel about racism, about Donald Trump and how Donald Trump, in their opinion, dissed Colin Kaepernick, wouldn't you think they wouldn't want to take a baseball bat to a very successful business model? The NFL is probably the most successful sports business in the world, and they're losing patrons, they're losing fans, and fans also, Sean, double as taxpayers. Jerry Jones got $300 million from taxpayers to build the stadium that he later on sold for a profit. So they're just taking a baseball bat to a very successful business model. But the bottom line is this. Colin Kaepernick did this because of his perception of police brutality. In 2015, according to the Washington Post, there were 250 black people that were killed by the police, 500 whites. I dare say most of the people in your audience can't name a single one. And my point is, when it happens, as it happens rarely, of course the media goes into a frenzy over this.
Darryl, what's your reaction to that?
Last year, Sean.
Darryl, what's your reaction to what Larry?
One more thing, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish, Larry.
Sean, one more question. One more quick thing. 17 unarmed black men were killed by the police last year. 17. That is not very many, as opposed to 5,000 blacks killing other blacks, mostly young black men killing other young black men. If we really are concerned about black lives, why aren't we talking about that? That far exceeds the small number of blacks that are killed by the police every year.
Darryl, I want you to respond to what Larry just said.
Without question, I think he's mixing up the issue. I think without questions, the commissioner had it right. This is not about protesting the flag or the anthem. Without question, these athletes, the NFL players, have the right to have the issues addressed. The NFL has taken a good position, one, to move past the protest issue and deal with the issues that the athletes have brought to the league. And so now that we're dealing with the issues, I think you'll see less athletes protesting because the NFL has taken the issues very seriously, brought the players to the table, and started addressing the issues. That's all they wanted. It was never about the flag. It was never about protesting the anthem. It was about bringing issues to the forefront of America and dealing with the issues. The issue we're having is that we have some issues in policing that exist in the country. We've had many deaths, and we have to deal with those issues. Those are the important issues. Throwing out numbers just to throw out numbers doesn't address the issue.
All right, we got to leave it there. When we come back, we have a famous celebrity icon speaking out how she was sexually harassed as a teenager. Another person talking about pedophilia in Hollywood. And we won't be in New York tomorrow. We have a big announcement straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. There is more explosive fallout from the Harvey Weinstein scandal tonight. It seems like every single minute of every day, we are learning more and more about how disturbing this casting couch culture is in Hollywood, how everybody knew and no one did a thing to stop it. Now, actress Molly Ringwald, famous for her roles in movies like The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink, well, she's penned an essay in The New Yorker where she describes being sexually assaulted by a director she was only 14 years old. And it doesn't stop there. Celebrity icon Martha Stewart has now come forward saying she was sexually harassed working as a model at age 16. Also, we mentioned last night, Deadline senior editor Dominic Patton is now reporting that the Los Angeles city attorney is now going to prosecute Harvey Weinstein if, in fact, victims come forward. And he joins us now with more. Okay, what can you tell us about this?
Well, Sean, what we're seeing here is the beginning of what could likely be a very, very deep investigation out here on the West Coast. Officially, the LAPD has not started an investigation, though as we reported exclusively last week, they are considering it. Of course, the NYPD and police over in the UK are looking into complaints. But what the LA city attorney has said is if credible evidence comes forward, they will prosecute and pursue convictions against Harvey Weinstein. So this now raises the stakes here in the City of Angels.
All right, so you now have investigations in New York, maybe L.A., and the United Kingdom. I've been reading that Harvey Weinstein, if they prosecute, could be looking at, what, 25 years in jail?
Something like that. I mean, you have to remember, it's very complex the way these work. Right now in the state of California, there is no statute of limitations on sex crimes like rape. However, that's based on a law that Jerry Brown signed into effect earlier this year that essentially was to recoup some of the things that Bill Cosby was able to get out of in his various allegations. But this is a big but. That law is only holding against crimes that have happened after January 1st, 2017. Otherwise, the previous 10-year statute of limitation still holds in the state of California. However, let's be clear, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen here. Of course, in New York, they're looking at similar things. And of course, as I said, in London.
All right, Dominic, thank you for that report. We appreciate it. Now, we've been telling you all week, this is the tip of the iceberg. Listen to Corey Feldman talk about pedophilia in Hollywood. He talked about it on Nightline and on The View with Barbara Walters. Watch this.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh, yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures. I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Are you saying that they're pedophiles?
Yes.
And that they're still in this business?
Yes. You don't go into it thinking that it's all roses and sunglasses.
You're damaging an entire industry.
Joining us now with reaction, author of the brand new book, Through Your Eyes, My Child's Gift to Me. She, of course, well-known co-host of the #1 morning show, Fox and Friends. Ainsley Earhardt is here. By the way, this is your second in a series.
We need this after we just heard that soundbite. That breaks my heart.
Well, this is what I honestly, because now, and you always have the best illustrations. You got a really cute picture of your daughter on the back, which is awesome. So you have a young daughter. So now he's talking about pedophilia, and everybody's coming out. It's like almost everyone.
Right.
This is real in Hollywood. The media knew about it. They spiked the stories on Weinstein. Hollywood knew about it.
I know. Well, the book is called Through Your Eyes because it's about seeing life through the eyes of your child. But I had my dad here with me yesterday when the book launched. He flew out today. But it reminds me, when I hear these stories, I wanted to move to LA. I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be a child actress. My parents said, you can make that decision when you get older. You're going to college, and then you can make choices for yourself.
So they were protecting you.
I'm so glad they did. I hear all these stories. And Molly Ringwald, I read the article in the New Yorker about what she said, and she said that her parents were with her, and she was harassed. A director put his tongue down her throat when she was 14 years old. Another man pressed up against her to get sexually aroused when she was 13 years old. And she said she had very protective parents that traveled with her and were with her all the time. So I'm really glad my parents protected me from that.
You know, and it actually dovetails into your book nicely. And one of the things, and I know this is a second in the series for you, it's like things that we parents find aggravating. Rain, snow, leaves and the trees blowing, and then you have to rake them, cutting the lawn and flowers and bees and all. It's like when you do look at life and when you slow down, and you see it through your kids' eyes, it's a beautiful thing. So true. And then you juxtapose it to the evil in this world.
That's right. That's right. That's why we need to hold on to our children and just remember that we need to look at life with the lens of a child. She walked out one day and she had never seen rain, and we walk out and I left my umbrella and I had to turn the stroller around, and in New York it's just not convenient because all the taxis are taken when it rains. I had to go back upstairs to get my umbrella, and I was, just delayed. I was mad. I turned the stroller around and I look at her, and she has these big eyes and her mouth is wide open and she's looking at the rain, and I thought, this is my little girl, the first time this human being has ever seen rain, and it changed my perspective that day. I was with her when she saw a dog for the first time, and she's cackling. I said, Hayden, this is a dog. And I loved that she was a dog lover instantly.
Oh, great. I'll send 3 dogs over for your daughter.
Bring
them over.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
But one day we're going to go and pick out a dog, so I'm really looking forward to that. But this is it's what our children teach us, and we could all go on and on about what our kids bring to the table.
Well, it goes through all of that. All those things that they see that we take for granted. The rain, the sun, the snow, the stars, the beautiful park, animals, and things like that.
Thank you so much.
One last question, though, and it's related to both issues, I think. I remember when I was a kid, I would get off the school bus. My parents had no clue where I was.
Right.
I knew where my kids are every minute of every day.
Times have changed.
And it's funny because I met your father yesterday because you were on the radio show, and he said the same thing. I know. You didn't have the restrictions that you'll put on your daughter because of all of this evil. It's sad, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, because a few people change everything for all of us. Look at 9/11. You can't get on an airplane without being frisked, basically. I mean, they go through your bags. That's after 9/11. You can't take liquids on a plane because a few jerks did all of this, evil people, and it changes everything for all of us. But we have to be protective, and that's our job as parents.
Yeah. Well, this is a great book.
Thank you.
The illustrations are phenomenal. It's really well done. And where are you going to be? You're doing a book signing tomorrow in South Carolina?
Yeah, tomorrow will be Connecticut, in Madison, Connecticut, and then Friday, Myrtle Beach, Saturday, Columbia, South Carolina, and Sunday, Greenville. AinsleyEarhartBooks.com. You can buy the book there, or you can get the schedule. But we're giving proceeds to Folds of Honor.
Are you going to do that in the morning, you said?
So tomorrow we have Major Dan Rooney, who started that organization. His story is incredible. You should stay tuned for that. We have a big surprise for him tomorrow, and I won't reveal what that is, but tomorrow on Fox and Friends.
And then on the back is a picture of you and your daughter, which is really cute.
Isn't she cute?
Very cute.
Thanks. I love her so much. I love
okay, you want to kiss the picture? Okay, there we go.
I love her. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for being with us, and congrats on being number one in the morning.
Well, that's because your viewers and you. Thank you.
Well, you're number one in the morning. It's the best show on cable, no doubt. When we come back, we do have an exciting announcement. We're not going to be in the studio tomorrow, and there's a really good reason why, and we'll tell you about it next. And welcome back to Hannity. So actor Kirk Cameron is returning to the big screen, but not with a Hollywood film. Instead, he is hosting his faith-based event. It's called Revive Us 2, which is in theaters nationwide. You can go see it October the 24th. Watch this.
Over 150,000 believers gathered in theaters across America for a national family meeting. We prayed, we worshiped, we put our faith into action, and something remarkable happened. But we didn't cross the finish line. We crossed the starting line. Today, some say that we've become more divided as a country than ever. Divided over race, politics, religion. Even our families are divided, and they say it's only getting worse. But you and I know something they don't. An awakening has begun.
Here in studio, actor and founder of Revive Us 2 is the one and only Kirk Cameron. I'm not going to mention names, but there are people here who say, "Oh, he was my childhood crush," which made me laugh. You know, I know you do these events, and you get hundreds of thousands of people. It's called a Fathom event, right?
That's right. Fathom's the company that puts on alternative entertainment in the movie theaters. And I have an audience that I love to provide content for, and that's the family of faith. Yeah. And we've put these events together, and lots of people come because they leave inspired. And
so they're in their
encouraged.
Theaters, wherever they happen to be in the country. And you can go like on this night, it's October the 24th.
Right.
And they buy tickets like they go into a movie.
That's right.
And where are you?
And I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday night at the Museum of the Bible, which is an amazing gift. And we're going to be broadcasting into 800 movie theaters with hopefully a couple 100,000 people.
I know hundreds of thousands of people go. Listen, I really believe everything about the Bible and church and Jesus. I believe the whole thing. But I'm a bigger sinner than you, and I don't go to church regularly. But I believe it all. And there seems to be in this country a revival of faith. I think that I won't mention all the crap that I've been discussing about Hollywood. You don't need to be dragged into that. But you hear all these horrible stories, and you're like creating an alternative. And I think Americans that are conservative and Christian feel like they don't want to be a part of people that have contempt for them anymore.
I think you're exactly right. That's what I find. In the midst of the negative narrative that produces so much anxiety, division, and hostility, I travel around teaching marriage and family conferences at about 250 cities over the last 7 years. And I find that there's been a shift in the mentality of much of the culture. There is a fresh momentum building of people who want to lean into their faith, love God, love their spouse, their kids.
How did you survive Hollywood? You're like normal.
Yeah, well, I have my parents and a lot of good people to thank for that. It's not easy, obviously.
Now, you're going to be explain all this on my radio show tomorrow, which I'm really excited. You're going to be on for like 40 minutes. We'll have more time. Where do people buy tickets for this? Because I want people to go.
ReviveUs.com.
ReviveUs.com. That's simple.
Yep.
All right. Great to see you again, my friend. Thank you. All right. That's all the time we have left. All right. Tomorrow night, I'm not going to be in this chair. We're going to Las Vegas for a very special reason, but I can't tell you now. We'll tell you tomorrow from Vegas. Thanks for being with us.